We need more than a game manager at the QB1 spot, but that seems to be the goal that the Clemson coaches has put on Cade Klubnik.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I am your host for the show. You can follow us over on X at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member for the Clemson Tigers and a couple different sports. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are bringing you all sports, all passion, all of the time. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. After you listen to this, make sure your second listen is one of the many amazing Locked On Podcast shows. And we have over 200 plus shows across all sports, all across the nation, for whatever team you're a fan of. So make sure you're checking that out. Today is Thursday, September 5th. We have a great episode for you talking about game manager. Is that the goal? Talking about misplaced anger from Dabo Swinney. And then looking ahead to our next opponent of App State, the Giant Killers. It's going to be a great show. We are grateful for all of our sponsors. For a full list of our sponsors, check out the episode notes below so you can see all the people that make this show possible. We need more than a game manager. But it seems like the coaches at Clemson are giving that goal to Cade Klubnik. When you think of the quarterbacks at Clemson, if I say name a Clemson quarterback, most people are going to name one of three names: Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, or Taj Boyd. Those will be one of the names that are thrown out. It seems like those are one of the three names that people name. You know what all three of those quarterbacks have in common? They were team leading quarterbacks who won games for the Tigers. Those three. They took charge. They made plays. They didn't sit back and allow other people to make the plays. They led the team. Of course, other people did make plays, but they were the ones that put forth that initial effort. They were striving for victory. They were striving for the wins. Their goal was to win the game no matter what happened. That was who they were. That's who they were. When it comes to the quarterback position, when it comes to overall quarterbacks as a whole, I feel like you have two categories of quarterbacks. You have number one, they're the skilled leaders. They're the ones that chase the wins. They're the ones that pursue winning. They're the ones that pursue making the plays. They want to lead the team. They want to be the ones that are helping the games be at won every single day. Then you have option two, which are game managers. And for some programs, this can be beneficial. This is the people that their goal is to sit back, make the passes that they have to make the routine plays, and allow big plays to happen from your other places. Sit back. Your job is to make sure there isn't any turnovers. Your job is to sit back and make sure you do everything you're supposed to meet expectations. Don't exceed them, just meet the expectations and allow the game to flow. And those are your two different types of quarterback. The difference in between one and two comes down to skill. Almost every single time you see the more skilled quarterbacks be in that number one group, that skilled leaders, game winners, right? The less skilled quarterbacks you see be the number two. You see the game managers. Prime example, we talked about some of the number ones: Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Some of number two, DJ Uiagalelei. He is definitely a game manager. He is not one that's going to come out and lead the game every single time. He's not going to be one that comes out and is the most impactful player, is the one that leading the charge, pushing forth to the win, not the one leading the team. He's game manager. He's making sure the mistakes aren't happening. His goal is to allow the game to manage throughout, to allow the game to flow throughout and score based on other people putting up what they need to put up. I hope you see the difference there. Another example, I'm a big Eagles fan. Fly, Eagles, fly. We play tomorrow night. Can't wait for that game. A couple years ago, we saw this prime example between these two players. Number one, a skilled leader, they had Carson Wentz. This is before his injuries. He came out MVP season, playing really well, led the team to a great start, led the team to that Super Bowl win, even though Nick Foles played in the final game. Carson Wentz was that category one. and the skilled leader of the quarterback, trying to get the win, trying to push for the play. He was the one making the plays. Number 2 was Nick Foles. Nick Foles, he didn't. No, I'm not talking about the Super Bowl win. I'm not talking about Philly special. I'm talking when it came back after, when Carson Wentz left and he was our QB1. That was the game manager. He made the plays that needed to happen. He wasn't trying to do the big plays. He wasn't trying to be the best player out there. He was allowing the game to flow and just manage the game manager, to where he doesn't make the mistakes. He makes the routine plays and lets other people make the big plays. There's the difference between the two. Clemson has always been a school in the past 15 years where we thrive when we have QB, that first option as our quarterback. We are not a school that can allow a game manager to get us to win. Other schools have. Honestly, Georgia has had some game managers that led them to success. Stetson Bennett, some people might say is more in that first category. Honestly, I'd say he's a glorified game manager. And that led to success. I'm not downing him. I'm not disrespecting him. He led him to a great performance, right? But he was a game manager. Other schools have done this as well. NC State, I think they've had some recent success recently. I think they're a school full of game managers. Look back at their quarterbacks throughout it, and they don't have that first player, the first quarterback that can make the massive plays, that can do all the amazing things. I think they've just had really good game managers that know how not to make mistakes. Clemson is a school that we thrive when we have that first option. We need a quarterback who can make the big plays, who's searching to lead the team in the win. Their goal is to win every game. Their goal is not to manage every game. Cade Klubnik sounds like he's being coached towards being just a game manager. In an interview he had during this week, talking about that Georgia game, he talked about this story. He said he walked off the field, and a coach, he didn't name what coach. My guess is it wasn't Dabo, Garrett, or Tosh Boyd, because when those three talk to him, he names them. But we don't know for sure. But my guess, I'm almost positive it wasn't one of those three. And he says the coach asked him while he walked off, he said, "Hey, Cade, how many games do you have to win this season?" And Cade was like, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. So he didn't say anything. The coach said, "You don't have to win." Or I'm sorry, how many games do you have to win? And he said, "You don't have to win any of them." He said, you don't have to win these games by yourself. You don't have to win these games. You have to manage them. And I mean, these are words for words. You can go on YouTube and look up Cade Klubnik media interview, and you'll hear this story in this interview that he was in. They said, you don't have to win them. You have to manage each of those. And Cade said that really resonated with me. That's my goal for the season. I want to manage the games to allow us to get to a point where players can win them. What? We're coaching. Our goal is for him to be a game manager. We don't need that. For Clemson to have success, we need the skilled leaders. We need the players that can go out and lead this team to a win. We need a quarterback that can come out, play great, even if they make mistakes. I'm not saying don't play. They have to play player perfect. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need a quarterback that's goal is to lead this team in wins. Is to lead this team to win the games, not to manage the game. You know whose job it is to manage? The manager. The coach, Dabo Swinney, Garrett Riley, their job is to manage the offense, to manage these teams. Cade Klubnik is a 5-star prospect. He came in as the number 1 quarterback in his class. He came in a great prospect. And honestly, I believe he could truly be a player that leads this team. He could truly be a player that could be that quarterback that is a skilled leader, that option number 1, that category 1 quarterback. But he's being coached to be a game manager. We don't need that. We don't need that until Cade and our coaching realizes and then raises the expectations for Cade. Cade will never reach his true potential, because I'm telling you, he has the potential. He has the skill sets to be that category 1 quarterback, the one that makes the plays, the one that leads his team and wins, the one that leads his team to be this category 1 quarterback that is pushing to win the games. He's not being coached for that. He's literally being coached to be a game manager. And when you're Clemson, not getting transfers, having all the talent that you have, we need a quarterback who is going to lead this team and pursue the win. We need a quarterback that is going to come in, put the team on his back when needed, and make the plays to win the game. Your goal is not to let other people win the game for you. Your goal is to lead the team, to be the one pursuing the wins, to be the one pursuing making the big plays. Until that happens, Clemson isn't going to have the success that we once knew. I don't think it's a problem of Cade's skill. I think it's a problem of how he's being coached. We don't need a game manager. We need a game winner. Cade can be that, but that's not the goal for him right now. The coaching has to make that change. Speaking of coaching, Dabo has been very vocal this week, and you expect him to be upset after that week one loss that he had, that ugly loss that we had of week one against Georgia. But it sounds like his frustration isn't at the players who made the mistakes and didn't show up. It sounds like his frustration is solely on the media right now.
Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. You heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So guess what? I'm about to tell you a little bit more. We got a little something just for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders. It doesn't matter, because guess what? With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Yes, every regular season out-of-market game. That is so dope. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. And make sure you download America's #1 sportsbook.
Dabo has been very upset vocally with the media this week, while all but praising his players. Look, when Clemson lost this game to Georgia, we've talked about it. Players missed their tackles. Our offense just didn't show up. Cade Klubnik did not look good. You only have to watch the first play of the game to see that. We had an easy film off, or we had an easy receiver running off to the right. Dabo even said that play could have went for 20 to 30 yards, and Cade threw it behind him and at his feet. That's how long it took for Cade to make a mistake. He didn't play well. Our offensive players, our offensive line was atrocious. There's a clip going around where literally all 5 of our offensive line make the huge mistake. The center and the right tackle just completely blow up. I mean, they get their defenders on them, completely rush them, completely beat them off the jump. Then our left guard and our right guard, they come out and they basically run straight into each other. I don't know if the left guard was supposed to go around him or if the right guard was supposed to pick up somebody behind or if he just completely ran the wrong way. But they literally hugged while the play's going on. Then the outside linebacker or lineman runs over and pretty much tackles the left and right guard hugging. What? That our offensive players made the mistakes. When as many mistakes as our players have made throughout this game, you don't lose 34-3 without players making mistakes. In the middle of all that, with all those players making mistakes, we've heard very little of Dabo being upset with the players. We've heard very little of Dabo getting onto them, correcting them, changing how they played. You know what we've heard a lot of? We've heard a lot of Dabo taking responsibility, which I admire. A good leader always takes responsibility, so I like that. I still think you got to call him out. I still think you got to be angry. A good leader not only takes blame, but he also helps people grow in their mistakes. We've heard a lot of Dabo take blame. We've also heard a lot of Dabo be very upset, but at the media. He hasn't been vocal about his disappointment in the players' performances. Instead, he's been very vocal about how upset he is at the media. How he's mad that the media is talking negatively about the team. I knew I was talking about this. I did the research on this, and it still shocks me. I'm still like, what in the world? Because all we're hearing about is not Dabo saying our players got to play better. Not saying Cade needs to be better. In fact, he even said Cade played good except for a couple plays. 1 field goal on the day. That's what Cade led us to. But yeah, good performance. No, what? Why is your frustration at the media instead of at the players who decided they weren't going to show up on this game? What in the world? How does that make any sense whatsoever? Dabo went through in the Tuesday press conference. He was talking to some media, and they asked him some questions. They talked about how he wasn't playing, how the team was disappointing, how players didn't make the plays they should have made, how there was definitely some people that should have played better. And here's his response, word for word, what he said. He said, y'all going to write crap. Y'all going to write terrible stuff. When we do great, y'all going to write great stuff. That's okay. All right. And then he goes, everybody's got a job to do. I don't take it personal. I don't read it. I don't listen to it. This doesn't affect me. I love my job. I love what I do. I love it all. Y'all can't change that. Nothing you write, nothing you can say can change that. Don't worry about what's going on in the media. If somebody writes something negative about you, realize there's probably some truth to it. I'm a firm believer that every single statement has truth and lie to it. Unless I come out and say some blatant lie like Clemson has never won a national championship. Obviously, that's completely false. But if it's an opinion piece based on a game, there's going to be some truth. There's going to be some false to it. So if the media is writing about a disappointing performance that you had, there's truth in that. If someone's talking about how you don't have one transfer start, I'm not even this year, you don't have a transfer start in your program at all since it opened in 2018. And if that's the case, and that's a fact, that is 100% a fact, and they're writing that other teams who have had transfer starts have better performance, the transfer problem could be leading Clemson to not have the success they want. That is a very fair assumption, a very fair piece and take based on the correlation between transfers and wins and performances now. You can't be mad that people are writing that. You want to prove them wrong? Get onto your players that aren't playing well and go win a game. Score a touchdown. That's all it takes. If you can't tell, I'm pretty upset about this because I don't understand how someone comes through and he gets blown out on national television. You're a 14-point underdog and you lose by 31 points. Dabo suffered his third largest loss in the 17 years he's been at Clemson. Third largest. And instead of talking about how the players can play differently, he talks about how they've played well. He talks about how it's a good performance, how the defense missed us open tackles in the second half, and they should be better at that. He really doesn't criticize the offense at all. Doesn't talk about how the play calling wasn't successful. Doesn't talk about maybe he didn't get the players he needed. Doesn't talk about one of the hundreds of questions that you can fairly ask about the players and personnel of the Clemson football team. And instead, he's putting all his anger, what seems like he's placing all of his anger onto the media. I'm not saying he should come out and drag all his players through the mud. I'm not saying he should come out and be like, Cade Klubnik was terrible, hasn't been the quarterback we expected. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he comes out and says, oh, yeah, Jaden Lucas missed a couple open tackles he definitely should have made, and that's why we lost the game. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is don't put all of your frustration at the media when the media is doing what they're supposed to do and bringing the truth of their struggles in this program. There's players that aren't performing well. There's question about leaderships, and they're asking you about it. Don't be mad at that. Be mad at the people that caused the disappointment in the first place. Because I guarantee you now, I guess I'm considered part of this media that he's referring to. I didn't throw the interception. I didn't go out and lay an egg. I didn't go out and not score a touchdown. That's the thing. I didn't play a snap, and I had as many touchdowns as Cade Klubnik did in that game. I touched the end zone the exact same amount of times as Clemson football team as a whole touched the end zone on that Saturday, and I sat in an armchair the whole time. Don't be mad at me for this. Don't be mad at the media. Don't be mad at the people doing their jobs, writing the stuff. Be upset about your team who just didn't perform well. Be upset at your coaching staff who isn't putting the right players in, who isn't calling the right plays, who isn't setting up what should have been so much better of a game. Did I expect us to win? No. Did I expect us to lose by 31 points? Absolutely not. And that Georgia is a better team than us. They're not a 31-point team better than us. And there's no way we should have lost by that much. The anger that Dabo has is completely misplaced right now. And I think that's a problem. That's a really scary fact that right now, after that ugly of a performance, Dabo isn't talking about how to be better. He's talking about how the media is getting on his nerves. That's a struggle. That's concerning. I love Dabo. I do. You've heard me say it. I don't think he should be fired. I don't think he's the wrong spot for the job. He 100% is the coach of Clemson. I think he should stay that way. But there are some times where I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you making it so hard for me to want you to be the head coach? Why are you making it so hard for me to support you? And I still do. I'm not saying that at all, but man, there's some question marks there. With all that negative, let's move on from that. Let's not harp on that now. Let's look forward to this week's opponent. We play them in 2 days. Appalachian State's coming into town. Not only are we paying them a good amount of money to play, we better be focused when we head into them, because we're not just playing some random school. We're playing the Giant Killers. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. At my last job, when I left, I was able to help the company that I was leaving, find the next person for the role. And part of that was LinkedIn Jobs. And LinkedIn Jobs made it so simple that we could just relax back and allow LinkedIn Jobs to be a great resource for us to find the next hire. LinkedIn Jobs isn't just a job board. It helps us find professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. And in a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong spots. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today. Terms and conditions apply. Clemson better be 100% focused on App State, because if our offense doesn't play better than they did, we could easily be looking at an 0-2 start. So oftentimes, if you don't know about this, there is this situation called a bye game. And what a bye game is it's a time where a Power 4 conference team, used to be Power 5, RIP Pac-12, but it is where a Power 4 team is scheduling games that are not a conference game. Scheduling games that are not a big marquee matchup like Clemson and Georgia. And you're scheduling smaller opponents, Group 5, FCS schools, those kind of schools, to play you to fill the schedule. Most of the time, these are bye games, which is where the home conference schedules a non-conference opponent and then pays them to come in and play. Clemson has done this multiple times. All right, 2022, we played Louisiana Tech $1.1 million for a game at Death Valley. And later on, we also in 2023, last year, we paid FAU $1.2 million to come in. Those ended up being money well spent because it provided a lot of players some game time. They were easy wins. Both those were relatively easy wins. Came out and looked great. This year, we have a bye game, and it is against App State. That's the game on Saturday. Clemson is coming in, and we are paying App State a good amount of money. I mean, we're paying them a good amount of money to come in. We're paying them $1.25 million. And this isn't just, hey, we'll pay you and you come play us. This is like an actual contract where there is very much certain spots that Clemson has to provide. Part of this agreement is Clemson gives App State 2,300 free tickets. They're allowed to bring their band, cheerleaders, and mascots to the game without charge. The band does take some of the $2,300 tickets. They're permitted to come walk through the stadium on Friday before the game. So tomorrow they'll come walk through the stadium. They get 60 team bench passes, 16 all-access passes, 8 coaches booth passes, and 6 team coaches video passes. They also get parking passes for trucks. But they get paid $1.25 million to come play this game, no matter what happens. Even if App State or Clemson decides, hey, they signed the contract in February. Even if they ended up saying, hey, we actually found a different opponent, we're gonna play someone else. Well, they still have to pay App State to $1.25 million. So we're paying them to come play this game. This isn't some Louisiana Tech. This isn't some FAU. App State is a powerful, dominant team. You look at who they've played over the past 10 years of the Power 4 conferences, and they've got some close games. They played Michigan in 2014, got blown out. Played Clemson 2015, got blown out. 2016, they played at number 9 Tennessee, lost in overtime by 1 score. Blown out by Miami, blown out by Georgia. In 2017, lost by 1 point against Wake Forest. 2018, they played number 9 Penn State, lost by 1 score in overtime. 2019, they played UNC. They won that game by 3 points. Also in 2019, they played South Carolina, won that game by 5 points. 2021, they played 22 Miami, lost by 2 points at Miami. 2022, they also played UNC. That was by far one of the most electric offensive games that I've ever seen. They ended up losing 63-61. They had every chance in the world to win that game. They didn't get a 2-point conversion, which would have tied it up, went overtime. It was an electric game. Also in 2022, they went to number 6, Texas A&M, and lost by 3 points. And then last year, they played at UNC, number 17 at the time, lost in double overtime by 6 points. This is a team that not only competes, but wins against Power 4 conferences. They beat UNC, South Carolina, and Texas A&M in the past 4 years. They are a powerful school. With Clemson having the performance that we just had against Georgia, if they come into this game still thinking about Georgia or looking ahead to NC State or another game, we're going to be in trouble. App State is known around the nation as one of the best, if not the best, group of 5 team. They're a team that knows how to win. They're literally labeled the giant killers. You don't have to look far to that. Look at it when so many years ago when they beat Michigan in that big game. They are a team that knows how to win. They're a team that's going to bring their best no matter what. They don't get intimidated based on the name on the jersey. And if Clemson doesn't come into this game completely focused on App State, there is a very real chance we're sitting at an 0-2 start. So I really hope we're not focused. I hope we're moved in. I really hope that we are focused in on App State, ready to win this game, because it's going to take us to be focused on it in order to win. Our offense has to show huge progression from week 1 to this week in order for us to beat the Mountaineers. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. Now go check out the Locked On College Football podcast. From NIL deals, conference realignment, Spencer McCaughlin hosts a great show that gets you ready for an amazing season this year. You can find the link to that podcast in the episode notes, so you don't have to go searching for it. It is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tomorrow, we're going to give a more deep look at App State, talk about what we need to see, what we need to watch out for in that game in order to walk out of a victory. We can't wait for that. Make sure you join us on tomorrow's episode. We also want to make sure you join our Locked On Clemson Insider program. That's a thing where it allows you to chat with me during game time. We can text one-on-one messaging. You can join that by texting Clemson to 864-252-1907. Hey, let us know your thoughts on today's topic. Send us a text on Locked On Clemson Insider program. Send us a message on Twitter. Send us an email. Do whatever you need to do. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, wherever you get your podcast at, or if you're watching us over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every single day, we can be your first listen here on Locked On Clemson podcast. We can't wait to see you in tomorrow's episode. But until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers!